Verstappen, Piastri, Norris. 3 drivers, 2 hours, 1 race. The 2025 Formula One World Championship up for grabs. Grand Prix racing is headed for its first triple threat title fight in almost 20 years. And while some might be too young to remember Kimi Räikkönen swooping in to steal a title from under McLaren's grasp, we at Overtake would like to take you back to the mid-1980s and one of Formula One's all-time great finales. In fact, we're gonna show you how you can recreate it yourself.
Moment of the race. Nelson, Piquet and Mansell together. And it's going a superb start from Nigel Mansell. Senna goes through the...
1986 is considered as one of the most enthralling seasons in Grand Prix history. It's received continuous amounts of praise ever since its gripping finale in Adelaide, and it's not without reason. This is the era of turbocharged single-seaters fueled by fascinating personalities of their time. Senna, Prost, Mansell, Piquet, the 4 horsemen of 1980s Formula One. Their fight for the throne was to dominate the 86 season, with Prost and Senna not yet racing for the same outfit. That task was to challenge Mansell and Piquet instead, with the latter having been hired by Williams as their new number 1. But, as the story goes, such a position as undisputed team leader was only ever agreed upon verbally, not in writing. With Mr. Frank Williams having suffered a horrific car accident early in '86, Piquet's position remained one of just and equal to the mustachioed bare-knuckle brawler from Birmingham.
And you see the flags and the handkerchiefs and the hands waving as Nigel Mansell on his way to win the British Grand Prix and to take the lead in the 1986 World Championship, exits the last corner, crosses the line, and Mansell is the winner.
As great of a prospect as this 4-way match seems to be, it only gets better from here. Until the 2014 Formula One World Championship, this was the only season to mandate turbocharged engines. As such, we're talking about screaming brutes that reach up to 900 brake horsepower during a race. And in qualifying? Well, we're talking about upwards of 1,200 brake horsepower, or even more, depending on who you ask. Stunning power aside, it's about more than just random numbers and power figures, as the drivers of this era will attest to their violence. These cars were monsters to drive.
Forget everything after. The 1986 turbo cars really was rockets.
We'd go out in qualifying with 400 bhp more than we had when stepping out of the car a few hours earlier, and on super sticky qualifying tires good for barely a lap.
And to handle them, I think you had to be a man.
As well as having to tame that power, you had to adapt to changing car characteristics. At first, understeer as the rears heated up easily. By the middle of the lap, we had grip and balance as the tires and brakes reached operating temperatures. By the end, it was significant oversteer with battling rear tires that had cried enough. We didn't drive these cars at one with the machinery. We mastered them through sheer force of will. Did you pick up on Ayrton's right hand in this iconic photograph? Yes, that's tape on his knuckles, not uncommon for drivers of this generation. They'd bloody their hands by shifting thousands of times during a race weekend. No paddle shifts or automatic gears for you, Mr. Da Silva. Never again would Grand Prix racing reach this level of in-car fury. However, its brutality was not without its sacrifice.
Well, we've just had also, while I've just been talking to Nikki and Karen, some tragic news just in. The Italian motor racing driver Elio De Angelis has died of injuries suffered in a test run crash in his Brabham at the Paul Ricard track yesterday in France. The Italian suffered burns and severe head and body injuries. Colleagues have demanded talks with the Grand Prix governing body on safety. They're also threatening to boycott the Belgian Grand Prix on May the 25th. Elio De Angelis is dead.
Elio De Angelis, 5 years I was with him. I'd like to dedicate my win here today for him because it would make it much better if he was here with us.
It's not just the danger that draws a distinct line between the turbo era of the 1980s and the hybrid hubris of the 2010s or 2020s. Similarities do exist in the lack of refueling, an emphasis on tire management, fuel saving at the forefront of everybody's mind. As tank capacity had been reduced to just 195 liters pre-season, to merely finish was to succeed. Maybe, just maybe, this doesn't sound particularly exciting to modern fans of the sport, as many are calling for aspects like refueling to return. On the flip side, those who were to witness the MP4/2C, the FW11, and the Lotus 98T might hold a different view.
Mechanical failure, and the only other thing he can do is if he makes contact or allows Senna to make contact with him. Senna, you see, moving to the right, making it hard, and Nelson's got round the outside of it. Oh!
Wheel-to-wheel duels were a sensational sight to behold, as dirty air hadn't hamstruck the formula from an aerodynamic point of view. Power was managed through the turbo gauge. If you wanted to get by an opponent, you might turn up your boost and whiz by with testicular fortitude. Then again, such adventures could cost you dearly if you forgot to save enough fuel in turn. Power delivery was more tricky to manage thanks to the infamous turbo lag. Where modern power and grip arrives in an instant, 1980s F1 cars had a tendency to wait a bit until the turbo was able to truly kick in. None of this was achieved through sophisticated telemetry. Engineers couldn't warn their drivers of excessive fuel consumption or off-balance tire pressures. It was their job, their task to manage through instinct, intellect, and a bit of good fortune. A true challenge for the drivers, first and foremost. An era of heroes was upon us. Heading into Adelaide, Nigel Mansell had established himself as the championship leader. If it wasn't for a boxed start in Mexico 2 weeks earlier, he would have very likely arrived in Australia as the 86 champion. All he needed to do now was to finish third no matter the result Prost or Piquet might achieve. Their only hope, respectively, was to win the Australian Grand Prix. To recreate this contest, we do have quite a few options in the world of sim racing. If we enjoy creating our own 1986 sandbox, the recently reinvigorated Grand Prix 2 is a fantastic shout. While it doesn't hold up in terms of visual fidelity, it offers an almost inconceivable level of freedom with all its available cars and tracks. To this day, Grand Prix 2.de serves as the all-encompassing hub for everything related to the Jeff Crammond Classic. And thanks to Hatcher's X86 project released in January 2025, fans of Formula 1 can experience the thrills and spills of retro sim racing on modern hardware without too many hoops to jump through. Widescreen support, in-game modding options, and improved frame rate, or the possibility to add force feedback have made this a worthwhile way to indulge in your virtual trip to the streets of Adelaide. GP2's AI has stood the test of time, drawing you into the illusion of racing cars around this once famous Grand Prix racing circuit. They even defend like you'd expect them to in most scenarios. This level of immersion only increases once some of your competitors drop out because of various technical problems. And thanks to X86, the game even supports H-pattern shifting. But I get it. You didn't buy your new sim rig and burned lots of cash on horrendously priced RAM to play a game from 1996. Fair enough. You'd love to experience the 1986 season finale in all of its virtual 4K glory. Unsurprisingly, Assetto Corsa features all the liveries and tracks you need for said exercise. The Lotus 98T serves as the basis for your single-player adventures on here. Where GP2 was the sim racing sandbox of the 20th century, AC has become the sim racing sandbox of the 21st century, though not without its flaws in terms of AI behavior or damage model. Still, the sheer variety and breathtaking beauty of the sim make it worth a punt. In fact, those who seek true immersion in terms of driving, the test of courage with a combustible rear end kicking your backside, can take a glance over at RSS. Those willing to pay a few quid can experience the Formula RSS 1986 V6. Race Sim Studios are known for their incredible work, and this non-Williams or not Zach Speed is not an exception. For the purposes of recreating the 86 Climax, fitting liveries are available on our website, overtake.gg. But what if you don't want to spend £4 on a brilliant piece of modding and find setting up Assetto Corsa with all its cam tools, graphics mods, and such to be too annoying, too time-consuming for your liking? Can't I just recreate this on the modern F1 games? Yes, kind of. $1986 is technically available for F1 25, though it's only a livery pack for the modern Formula 1 grid. Definitely worth a shout for those missing this era of design, still not ideal for actually experiencing Prost versus Mansell versus Piquet. Speaking of our trio, these three couldn't have been further apart in terms of personality. Good old Nige, the Lion, was and still is known to have a chip on his shoulder. Where Nigel went, drama was most likely to follow. That didn't prevent his former boss proclaiming, "He'll never win a Grand Prix as long as I have a hole in my ass."
Nigel Mansell comes up to win his first Grand Prix victory in 72 starts, and the British crowd are delighted.
Through trials, tribulations, and sheer determination, Mr. Mansell mastered this era of brute force machinery and fought like the aforementioned cat. Nelson Piquet was very much tranquilo, the playboy, charming, bad to the bone, known for his wit, precise in his inner team politics, and psychological warfare. Mansell is argumentative, he's rude, and he's got a really ugly wife. He's arrogant, and after he started winning races, he started treating everyone really badly, besides which he's written off piles of cars. No one wanted him to win. Well, I'm sure he must have calmed down over the years, you know?
Another day, a journalist asked me, being honest, who was the best, you and Senna? I said, I'm alive.
Yeah. That's harsh.
Well, maybe after that, he was sort of kind of... Oh, never mind. Next to these two, Alain Prost might have come across as quite the choir boy. He'd endured Renault's incompetence in the early 80s only to lose to Niki Lauda in 1984 by half a point. Still, the professor persisted, outfoxing his competition in a now somewhat outdated McLaren. A McLaren, mind you, that we could recreate in one of Reza's outstanding projects. Automobilista 2 is known for some of its classic racing action. Yes, its predecessor offers more variety thanks to a loyal modding community and features an impeccable recreation of the 86 season. For the sake of plug-and-play ease, though, many will prefer AMS2's interpretation of the Adelaide fight. Visually, Reza captures the atmosphere of the street circuit like no other studio.
Der 16. und letzte Lauf zur Formel 1 Weltmeisterschaft in Adelaide im Süden Australiens muss die Entscheidung über den Weltmeister bringen.
Congratulations for being with us at this unearthly hour, and whether you made it via the late-night movie, the all-night party, or the simple alarm clock, let's hope the reward is a race to remember and that world title at last for Britain's Nigel Mansell. There's Nelson Piquet, who's alongside Nigel Mansell on the front row of the grid in Adelaide. Mansell is on pole, and that world title beckons.
Prost, Senna, Piquet, and pole position man Nigel Mansell.
Sadly, Automobilista 2 won't let us edit the grid in-game, so replicating this scenario one-to-one isn't easy. At least the easy-to-use multiplayer interface allows us to hop online and enjoy the festivities with our mates, if only Automobilista 2 didn't block using custom AI online. This means that while you can race the Prost, Senna, Mansell, Piquet quartet in single player, you can't in multiplayer races. What a shame.
Nelson, Piquet and Mansell together. And it's go, and a superb start from Nigel Mansell. Senna goes through into second place ahead of Piquet.
Ayrton Senna danced his way through to first, getting past his Brazilian nemesis and Britain's new superstar.
And coming towards us, it is Ayrton Senna in the lead, it is Piquet second, it is Rosberg in third position, Mansell is down to fourth position, Piquet going through and trying to take Senna, one Brazilian passes another, and we've got a third leader before even one lap has been completed. And it is Piquet, Senna, Rosberg, Mansell, and then Prost.
Personally, I wouldn't even want to roleplay as any of the three title contenders. Do you see that McLaren ramping up behind Nelson Piquet? That's Keke Rosberg, 1982 world champion, father of Nico, racing his very last Formula 1 Grand Prix. 1986 hadn't been too kind to Keke, so he wanted to bow out on a high. He knew that his brakes were troubled throughout the entire weekend, so finishing the Australian Grand Prix might not be on the cards. Still, he suggested pushing hard, getting past the Williams, forcing them to pounce more than they'd like to, ideally. Meanwhile, McLaren and Prost were frightened by the Adelaide streets possibly shredding his tires. According to Goodyear, they need not fear, as their rubber should be able to do the full distance, allowing the frontrunners to plan their race with 0 stops in mind. That was the plan over in the Williams garage, yet McLaren intended to pit Prost, a crucial decision for the outsider. He moved past Mansell into P3, not caught by TV cameras. Quite surprising, as the 9 Network's broadcast had been absolutely stellar, arguably setting new standards for the likes of the BBC, ARD, or RAI over in Europe. As the Frenchman pushed Piquet, the Williams ace made the slightest of errors.
And off speeds Piquet! Wowee! Now, Piquet goes off, Prost goes through. Now we have the two McLarens, first and second. Rosberg leads and Prost is second. This could change the race.
To add to the drama, one of Alain's Goodyear tires exploded 2 laps before his scheduled pit stop. Still, he dragged his McLaren back to the pits, rejoining the race down in the midfield, possibly out of the fight if a miracle wasn't to happen.
You can become a premium member on our website, overtake.gg.
Premium members enjoy extra benefits such as an ad-free browsing experience, special community deals, discounts, and Overtake Turbo, which provides setups, coaching, and 1 free esports setup per month.
And if you love unboxing sim racing gear just as we do, there's a premium member giveaway every month. Another cool feature are community reviews, so you can have a chance to contribute and share your opinion on not yet released hardware or games.
Join as a premium member on overtake.gg for just €1 a month.
Fresh rubber allowed the reigning champion to bounce back, yet if the race were to finish now, Nigel Mansell would win the title. Even his teammate passing him couldn't prevent such an outcome.
Piquet is certainly going, he's certainly intending to have second place, and he takes it. And Nigel Mansell didn't fight there. I think, as James has suggested, Nigel Mansell is using every ounce of his considerable intelligence, acumen and experience, knowing that if he stays where he is, he's still going to be world champion. Rosberg out! Keke Rosberg is out of the Australian Grand Prix. If this isn't a sensation, I would like to know what is.
Prost has got past Mansell there. You just saw him going around the hairpin in the background.
And look at that! Out that, and Colossally, that's Mansell! That is Nigel Mansell, and the car absolutely shattered. He's fighting for control, and you can see what's happened. Mansell is out of the race.
The tire gamble had not paid off. Where Gerhard Berger won the Mexican Grand Prix with 0 stops, such a strategy was to bite Williams right at the end.
And into the pits goes the Williams.
And I wouldn't be at all surprised if his team didn't call him in, because they will have seen on a TV monitor that 2 people have lost these tyres. Nelson was running the same tyres, and so Prost is now a favourite to win the World Championship.
You have seen the crowd rising to this popular little Frenchman who has demonstrated yet again that he's the driver of the day, and he takes the checkered flag. He wins the Australian Grand Prix. He wins the World Championship of 1986. Look at him, he can hardly believe it himself.
A fitting send-off for one of Grand Prix racing's most memorable championships, but why should you give it a try? If you don't think this is the greatest finale in Formula 1 history, I'm not going to be angry with you. For once. What makes Adelaide 86 such an exquisite choice is that, in my mind, it had everything you could possibly dream of. The personal animosity between these 4 was palpable for all involved. Watching the fantastic Turbos and Tantrums episode about this race, one post-qualifying quote stuck in my mind. 3 guys ahead of me, and they all hate each other. There are undoubted similarities to 2025, obviously. The British hero needing to finish third, 2 drivers from a single team in it to win it, and even Patrick Head's attitude towards the whole shebang seems eerily familiar.
But I felt more obliged to be fair to both of our drivers than to guarantee collaring the World Championship.
The on-track action was second to none. Close fights, the constant jeopardy of these flimsy machines not being able to withstand the tough streets of Adelaide. Tire wear came into play without artificially interfering with the outcome of the title race, where modern Formula 1 tries, for better or for worse, to ensure an entertaining afternoon. F1 86 didn't need to try. All elements were there, sparked into a perfect crescendo, and it lends itself beautifully to sim racing. These contenders fighting in different machinery, known for their styles, whether they be tranquilo, not without mistakes, rousing, fighting as the ultimate underdog no matter the setbacks, or collected, intelligent, fierce in surgical precision. In the end, you could argue it's these traits that decided this titanic battle. Piquet accepting his team's request to pit in despite the year-long internal anguish. Mansell pushing hard, losing out in dramatic fashion, as was known to be a thread throughout his career. And Prost, the professor himself, king of consistency, bringing his car home just where he needed it. No drop of fuel left in the tank after the finish line. Growing up, I'd assume many of you wouldn't have dreamed of reaching a season finale with lackluster finishes. You'd have thought up the most ridiculous of scenarios, punctuated by constant overtakes, drama, tension right up until the finish line, a script worthy of celluloid. Yet, it happened in real life, in Adelaide, in '86, in front of 150,000 people. It's a real shame this circuit isn't used in Formula 1 anymore, that these machines, their fury and faults are long gone, stuck in warehouses and museums all across the globe. To manage these boxes was to learn, to suffer even, and to fight tooth and nail for all the world to see with spectacular drifts and sublime sound. Compared to previous eras, this grand finale had the advantage of being broadcast all across the globe in fantastic quality. It's ranked amongst the best Grand Prix in F1 history for a reason. The '86 season, a worthy contender for the sport's most engaging championship. To recreate this, an AMS2, rFactor, Grand Prix 2, Assetto Corsa, is to experience a perfect storm, almost inconceivable in modern racing. Not to deter from the challenge Verstappen Verstappen, Piastri, and Norris are going to face. Nonetheless, if you'd asked me as a kid which one of these I'd think was more exciting, which one I'd love to compete in myself, I guess you already know the answer. What do you think? Is this really the greatest F1 finale in history, and who do you want to win the 2025 Drivers' Championship? Let us know in the comments below. Until then, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit the bell, do all the YouTube things, and as always, keep racing. Bye bye.